now that I am sanitized personally, I need to sanitize the kitchen. We're going to start by getting our 1/2 tablespoon for soap. That is located in drawer 7 in our kitchen if it's not already out at your kitchen. Okay, so I'm going to walk up to the front, staying socially distanced from anyone else around me. If there's someone already here, then I'm going to stand on this blue square and wait. If there's one person here, then I find this blue square and I wait. This will be the same procedure we have when we are measuring. Okay, so I'm going to walk over. I'm going to get my soap. Fill this up. You don't have to fill it all the way because we don't need it to spill. We're going to cover it with our hands so it does not spill. If it does spill, clean it up, please. We're going to go back to our kitchen. We're going to use the stopper with the handle up. We're going to put it in the sink that does not have the garbage disposal. We know this because we can see the drain. This one has the garbage disposal, so we're not going to use that. That is our rinsing sink. So here in our sanitation sink, I stop it up. I'm going to start and make sure this is nice and warm. Then I'm going to fill this over. I'm going to put this down kind of close. Be careful not to stick it up and have the water splash everywhere. Okay, now if this starts to get too hot, you can add a little bit of the colder water in, making sure it is nice and warm still. You want it to be where you can handle it, but not too cold, so that it's still sanitizing your dishes. So we will fill this up about halfway, and I'm going to leave my tablespoon over here on the drip drying towel so that it can dry. Now, I have grabbed 2 towels, one for the counter and one for me to hand dry with, which I will do at the end of the lab or whenever you have time throughout. Okay? So it drip dries on this. I hand dry it here. I'm noticing my sink is getting full. About halfway, I turn it off. Okay? Then you also are going to have at least 1 rag. A lot of times we'll have 2 rags, one to sanitize our counters with and one to wash our dishes with. Some people will prefer a sponge, so either one for dishes is fine. Okay? I'm going to use my rag for the counters. I'm going to dip it in my hot soapy water. Okay, all the way. I'm going to wring it out so that it's not dripping, but it still has soap in it. I can hear the soap. I'm going to walk over to my counter and I'm going to wipe it down. Now, if you are first hour and you are the start of the day, you might want to add a spray or 2 of sanitizer just because the kitchen has been sitting overnight and they may have cleaned the counters and dust might have settled, so we want to make sure our counters are nice and clean. We are using water because the water will spread the sanitation chemical and get it further on our surface so we don't have to spray 5 or 6 times. You're only going to spray once or twice, maybe 3 times on a large surface, but you want to use that water in your rag to really spread it. Then we are going to let it air dry so that it kills the germs, all right? We would never walk over to the soap and put soap in our hands and do this and walk away. You always use water. Same with our counters. When you spray, you use water to spread that and activate that solution. Okay, so then we'll sanitize. We'll also continue to sanitize other surfaces that we will use in our lab.
Where do we store the sanitizer when we're done?
Yes, the sanitizer at the end goes back under your sink. Okay, our soap for our sink is up in the front, but our sanitizing spray for our kitchen is under our sink. So that's where you'll find it, and that's where you'll put it back at the end. To actually measure our ingredients and set up our mise en place. Mise en place is basically setting in place, so getting everything ready and prepared ahead of time before you begin. This is when you're really going to reference your lab plan that we've prepared in class. You might have done it at home on a virtual day, but you have a lab plan in front of you with the recipe and all the steps and what you need to prepare your lab. So on a normal non-COVID year, we would probably use our trays. There's one in every kitchen, and we would set up all the equipment that we need, and 1 or 2 people from your group would go to measure. Because we are doing things individually this year, you will have probably a single plate or just a couple of prep cups or a single bowl, depending on the ingredients that we are using for that lab. Each lab will be a little bit different, and we will have a demo for you to watch for those labs. So this is just kind of a basic demonstration. Okay, so I'm going to take this over. Now, oftentimes we have 2 separate locations to measure so that we can spread people out. Sometimes it is up in front at the demo table. We have another table over on the side here for us to measure at. Now, if one person was already here measuring, then as a second person, again, we're going to use those tiles as a reference. I'm going to stand back here on this blue line so that I'm still 6 feet apart, obviously still with your mask on. Okay, the next person is going to create a line right here, down this row, okay, and continue back. If I was going to measure on this side of the room, then I would have one person up here measuring, and again, using my blue tiles, I would stand here, and then here, and so far back, okay? Again, you do have to wait until your person is already through the line before you can move up, all right? So make sure that your tables are clear, okay? If you're carrying stuff in your hands, you can set stuff down so that you're not afraid of dropping something, but let's make sure that everything is cleared off so that we're not bumping on anybody, we're not having any tripping hazards. All of your supplies should be in your chairs and your desks should be cleaned off, right? So if we'll head over here, I'm going to show you how we're going to measure this time around. Normally, I would not have these utensils already sitting out. You would have had to bring those yourself from your table, but because we are measuring individually this year, I'm already going to have the utensils set out. So you're going to measure, and then you're going to put it in your own prep cup, and then you're going to put this back in the container. You're not putting it and keeping it in the box, okay? And then I would do the same thing. I would measure over my liquid so that it doesn't spill, and then I would put it in my own prep cup, leaving this behind for the next person. Same with this. If you are measuring cinnamon, please measure and level off over the container, and then put it in your own bowl, and then set it down here. Don't level it off here. Level it off here so the extra goes back into the container for the next person, okay? And then you leave it like this, and then you head off to the next station, okay? Now we've completed our lab. We have our food on our plate. We're pretending, okay? You come over to your seat. This is the only time where you can remove your mask, okay? You'll enjoy your food. You'll fill out your reflection on your discussion if you have time, and then you will put your mask back on before you go to clean your dishes. For this presentation, I'm going to lean mine off so you can hear me, but remember to anytime you get up, your mask is on, okay? So we're going to go back to our kitchen where we have piled our dirty dishes on the side of the sink, okay? We are going to then rinse them. Okay, I still have a little bit of cinnamon because the cold water really didn't do very much. So I'm actually going to use warm water to clean that off, and it's going to rinse it a lot better. I'm going to put it all the way in the soap using my sponge or rag, depending on what you chose to do. Scrub it clean, turn back on and rinse again, and then put it upside down on my drip drying towel. I will then continue the process with all the rest of my dishes.
And maybe try to choose dishes that are a little more clean.
Yes.
Those are nicer to clean at the beginning, leaving your really dirty stuff towards the end, just to make sure that sanitation water stays as clean as possible, even though we're rinsing most of the gunk and stuff down the rinsing sink.
Especially if you have something like grease, like melted butter in a prep cup or in a liquid measuring cup, you really want to wash those last, or grease in a pan. All right, so I have my stuff drip drying. I'm going to come over here with my hand drying towel, and I'm going to dry. And then I'm going to look over and realize, oh, you know what? I haven't sanitized my counter yet. So I'm going to put my drying stuff back down. And this is maybe where a partner comes in. Maybe they have already cleaned it. But you're going to remember to sanitize just 2 squirts. I'm going to remember to re-soak my rag and rinse it out. And then I'm going to sanitize my counter before I put my clean dishes on it. Now, if your partner was still having some food over here, that's okay. Just make sure the spray stays away from the food. You can sanitize at least one area to where you can put your dishes, your clean dishes. You never want to put clean dishes on a dirty counter because then you have to wash them again. And what was the point of that? Okay? So, now that I'm hand drying my dishes, I'm going to walk carefully with them over here. Remember never to dry as you walk because you could drip water or you could slip the item out of your hand and it could break. So we're going to dry thoroughly over here, walk carefully, and you can stack things if you'd like, keep them out of the way.
And as the dryer, you should be inspecting the dishes. And so what happens if you're inspecting the dish and you see maybe that it's dirty?
You give it back to the washer and you ask them nicely to wash it again. Because chances are the teacher, when they come by to check, they're going to see it anyway and have you rewash. Now remember, you don't lose points for that. You lose points when the next class comes in and finds it dirty and you didn't check it. Okay, so make sure that you are checking those dishes and you're getting them nice and clean and nice and dry as well. We don't want any kind of bacteria to grow overnight in the dampness. So like if this was still a little wet and I put this on top, then the air is not going to get to that. So tomorrow it's going to be wet and sticky and probably smell kind of moldy, which we don't want, because we don't want the B-Day kids or the A-Day kids, whichever is next, to use something that sat overnight. Okay? So at this point, this is when we would normally put away our dishes in all the cabinets. However, during our COVID year, we are going to leave things out for the next hour or for the next day, depending. And so we would stack it up neatly. Sometimes the teacher will have a picture of what your island should look like and how the utensils should be arranged. Sometimes it'll just be a stack. So just per lab, just pay attention to what you're supposed to do and you'll be good to go. All right, it's time to close down the kitchen to get checked out. So we've either put our dishes away on a normal year or they're still sitting out during the COVID year. And now we have the rest of our sink and things to put away. So we need to drain our sink, right? You need to make sure that the sponge is completely rinsed out. We don't want to have suds in it. So we're going to rinse that sud out really well. If you are the last hour of the day, or if your teacher specifically tells your class to do so, you're going to put it in the microwave for 30 seconds. Okay, you can just hit the start button and that'll be 30 seconds. I need to clean all my appliances. Okay, my sink is now drained, however there are still suds. So do not walk away like this. You need to turn the water on and rinse these down and kind of just move it around. And it's kind of a pain with all of this suds. So what can help with this is if you don't add the soap right away. Like if you have a little bit of water in your sink before you add the soap, which I did not do, it won't create as many suds. Okay, so you can kind of do it that way. But you do need to rinse it all the way down before you can dry your sink out.
And everyone should be washing their hands at the end of lab anyways, so you can kind of take advantage of everyone washing their hands and trying to use all the soap and just getting it down the drain.
Yep. Again, and just kind of putting water on it is going to help. And then make sure that you do not put your rags, your towels or your rags away into the dirty basket until the teacher has come and checked you out. Because chances are you forgot to dry your sink and you'll need to go and get them and we'll waste towels. So I'm going to take the 2 towels that I already have here. I'm going to pick up everything. I'm going to dry all the way around both sides of my sink to get rid of rust spots and to prevent bacteria from growing. Nice and dry. I'm going to call my teacher over, ask them to check. Once I've been checked out, I'll take these to the dirty basket and you're done for the day.